Confusing.
Disappointing.
Tragic.
Poor quality.
Not really worth it.
Mediocre. I wish there were more options, especially during the weekends, because there are still students on campus over the weekends, and when we only have like one option for eating, it doesn't leave a lot of room for choices.
Bare minimum, I expect to be able to eat food that doesn't make me feel sick, or food that I actually want to eat, or food that looks decent and edible. And you get that sometimes, but it's not consistent.
Yikes, my Belk dining experience has not been the best. Coming here to a private school, I thought we would have a lot better dining options. And when I first got here, I remember I'm friends with a lot of upperclassmen, and they would just tell me about like how the food has been the same for the past like 3 years that they've been here, how it's always been crappy, how it's always just been not up to the standard they were expecting. I think a positive experience I've had at Belk Dining is that the cooks and everybody who works here are amazing people. They're just, the things that they're dealt with to give us is not a lot. So like, if you talk to them, like the cooks, if you tell them you want a grilled cheese or a quesadilla or anything like that, they'll make it for you right away. Like they're really good people.
All the staff members that I've had interactions with have been very kind. There's a lot of very nice people who work at Belk, and so I really appreciate their kindness towards all the students.
I think the staff members are very helpful, but when I come and since I don't have a meal plan, I have to wait for someone to charge my card, and usually there's not somebody sitting at the front desk, so I have to go and track someone down just so I can pay, and that kind of seems like a lot more work than for what it's worth.
I love the staff here at Belk Dining. I love them all so much. They're so great. I love having conversations with them. They're also very nice, really caring, really respectful, and all of that. I really like the staff here.
Most of the time they're very nice, and they're very like good about being friendly and being like accommodating if you ask them for stuff. But sometimes it just feels like they're just like rude or having like a bad day, and they kind of take it out on us, and like we didn't do that. But most of the time it's really, really good with the staff. Part of it I think is just the vibe is off when they're upset, and also I kind of feel like they underportion when they're upset, and so it's kind of like we're getting less food and they give you like looks if you ask for more.
I like how there's a lot of options at lunchtime. That's probably my favorite part. A lot of times I'll try something because I'm like, oh, I like that at home, and then I'll taste it. I'm like, that doesn't taste quite right, and I don't want to finish it, or it'll be too dry, or it doesn't have a lot of flavor to it.
I think overall it's been a pretty good experience. I get to see my friends a lot, so that's always a good thing. The one thing that I wish was that the food was a bit better. I would definitely say the quality. Probably getting like better ingredients, because I know that I've had a lot of friends who've had food poisoning from Belk Dining just in this semester. So I would definitely say like better ingredients, just to make it just a bit better.
I do really enjoy the themed dinners because oftentimes those meals seem to be a bit better quality than the typical meals, and so it's kind of exciting to get some different things as well, because when you have the same thing every week it kind of gets boring, so it's nice to have a bit of a difference there.
I really like the steak nights that they have on campus. I feel like that's the most filling thing that I've had there. I think it's a personal preference. I'm kind of a steak person, so it's like if there's one thing that I trust from the main section of Belk Dining Hall, it's stuff on that one night. It's like the only time that I'll be like, okay, I'm fine eating stuff that comes from there.
What do you mean by trust?
That it tastes good and that it hasn't been like contaminated by anything else. I'm allergic to two really specific types of tree nuts, walnuts, and pecans, and you know, when I eat them and I get that certain allergic reaction, it's the the food hall that's like across from the pizza station. I don't remember what it's called, but there have been times where I got food from that, from that station, and I ended up having an allergic reaction that I normally would to nuts. And these were things like scalloped potatoes and like hush puppies, things that shouldn't really be near tree nuts, or at least I wouldn't think they'd be near it. So, I'm having this reaction, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, behind there, is there like cross-contamination going on? Are they letting like different foods touch? That's not good, because if I'm having this reaction, then who knows what it's doing for somebody else.
I went to culinary school before Peace. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm ServSafe certified. I know about food. I cook food. I've done catering parties. I've worked in restaurants. I've very experienced. So when I come to a dining hall, I expect, again, to eat quality food, or at least food that I want to eat. And when it's disgusting, underseasoned, whatever, it's disappointing. And when you're paying what you're paying for a meal plan, and you're kind of forced to have a meal plan, it makes it even worse.
I think it seems kind of expensive, so I usually try to go somewhere else. Like I go to the grocery store up the road or something, and I kind of feel like when I come here, I don't really get the $10 worth that I have to spend. Since I don't have a meal card, I have to spend the $10 for the guest fee, even though I am a student and I'm not a guest. If I didn't want to spend the $10, I was told that I could just get a meal plan, and they said that would end up being about $8 per meal instead of $10, which to me wasn't too much of a savings. And since I'm graduating soon and I don't live on campus, I felt like a meal plan wasn't really worth it for me. I think if I could improve anything, then I would say maybe instead of charging a flat rate of $10 for guests and $8 for students, maybe the price could be based on weight. Like you could fill up your to-go container and then it would be weighed, and that's how much you pay. And that could still be factored into the meal plan, and also possibly a guest charge, but I just don't feel like I'm getting $10 worth of food. And also, I think the staff should be more available. I don't think I should have to track somebody down to pay. I would definitely say the quality was very good. So I kind of wish that I could afford to eat it more often, because anytime I've eaten here, it is pretty good. And also the green containers, I asked how I could get one of those so I'm not using like a lot of trash, and they like wouldn't give me one. She was like, no, here, and gave me the styrofoam, and I'm like, but I want that.
I did the math the other day because I tried to figure out how much I am spending a semester on food, and it's around $2,000 a semester. And I think for $2,000 a semester, I could be getting a lot. Like, I think McDonald's has better food than the dining hall here, and that's saying a lot. So I think I could get a lot of McChickens for $2,000 a semester. So I think if I had the capability to just take $2,000 away from like my tuition and just use it to go out and buy groceries and everything, I totally would, but I just can't do that.
I think that since we do pay all this money for dining plans, and we have quite a few students who do, I think that there should be plenty of money to buy good quality ingredients and good quality chefs and cooks and materials to cook with, to make the food more appetizing. I have used the feedback cards, and I've also filled out the surveys that the Belk Dining Hall does sometimes, but I feel like they don't really take our suggestions into consideration, because I know of a lot of people who have filled out their surveys, and it seems like not much has changed over time.
I have filled out the surveys. There was one time where I had a phone call, I think with the head lady that runs the Belk here, and I mentioned the allergic reactions I was having. Sometimes like I was having stomach aches and all that sort of thing. And I felt as though my concerns weren't really addressed, to be honest. I feel as though my concerns and a lot of students' concerns haven't really been addressed.
Terry and I had a conversation where she essentially promised that they would start checking temperatures, which I feel like they should have already been doing, and that they would make sure that they were following standards. And then she wanted to reinstate a dining hall committee of students to talk about the food. I actually have an issue with themed dinners. But favorite meal is probably just the fried chicken. I feel like no one has an issue with fried chicken. Reminds me of how my mom cooked it. It's good. In terms of like the themed dinners and my issue with that, it all goes back to consistency. On nights like Valentine's Day, it was very good. On nights where they know people will be coming to the dining hall, the food is fantastic. It's usually seasoned well, it's usually cooked well, it's usually good. But why isn't it like that every day? Why are there days where it's really good and you're happy to like eat here, and then other days you throw up or you just feel disgusting? But why isn't it quality all week? Why isn't it quality for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Why is it sporadic and they choose to be like, oh, we're gonna have a really good lunch on Monday, and then it's gonna be stuff no one wants to eat on Tuesday? I think when it comes to like dining bucks, I think late night Peace Perk is as good as it can get. For like the daily 2-3 meals a day, I don't think Belk Dining is where it should be.
I honestly don't really feel like it's worth it. Because of all of the, like all the run-ins that I've had with the food here, I was always kind of, like, especially last year, I was like kind of apprehensive about just like going to Belk altogether. It's not a good way to spend our money, I don't think so, you know, because meal plans, they cost so much, but we're getting, you know, food that can like sometimes, that's like sometimes good, but there's a huge chance that it like is contaminated or can give us an allergic reaction. If there was a way for me to take it back, the money back, I definitely could. I definitely would, because I don't really think it's worth all of that.